Consciousness returned like a drip of melted ice, slow, stinging, and entirely unwelcome. Plaint. Nolan Graves blinked into the sterile shimmer of a med bay ceiling, its panels pulsing faintly with calming blue light. Everything was too quiet, too smooth, too alien. His whole lower body felt heavy, wrapped, numb. It was the sensation of eyes on him that made him freeze. They weren't human. The figure leaning over him was tall, slender, and crystalline-skinned. Her body shimmered like living glass, opalescent veins glowing just beneath the surface. She wore a minimal silver tunic and thin gloves laced with microfilament sensors. Her gaze was clinical, focused, locked directly between his legs. "What the hell?" Nolan croaked, his voice raw. Without flinching, the alien woman glanced up, her expression unreadable. Her voice emerged like smooth quartz sliding over silk. "You are awake. That is timely. What are you doing down there?" She didn't move. "You were exhibiting irregular swelling in an area with dense vascular tissue and high nerve convergence. I initiated localized scan protocols." Nolan's face burned. "You mean down there?" "Yes. Your groin." He groaned. "That's not irregular swelling. It's... I am aware," she said. "Your biometric readings suggested elevated hormonal spikes. I assumed inflammation, possible rupture." "Rupture? Lady, that's not... I am not a lady. I am a Qevari Class-4 Recovery Medic. My designation is Selin Veyra." She finally stood upright, hands glowing faintly from the terminated scan. Her movements were precise, almost too graceful, a sculpture given motion. He tried to sit up, then winced as a jolt shot down his spine. "Do not move," Selin said, stepping forward. "Your lumbar nerve cluster is still regenerating. Excess tension may cause psychic feedback." "I'm not worried about my spine right now," Nolan muttered. "I'm worried about your head being 3 inches from, well, you know." She tilted her head. "No, I do not." "You've never seen a human body respond like that? I have read texts on human arousal. I was not aware it could occur during unconsciousness." "It doesn't, usually." There was a pause. Then she added, "I had assumed it was related to your trauma, that the appendage had overpressurized. It's not a ruptured appendage, it's just..." He stopped, lowered his voice. "It's biology, okay?" "I am familiar with your species' biology." Nolan gave her a long look. "Clearly not this part." Another pause. "Then educate me," she said. He blinked. "What?" "Explain," she said, stepping back. "The purpose of this state. Its onset. Its meaning. You want me to give you a sex ed lesson? If your species is to be treated accurately by off-world medical units, we must understand arousal's physical indicators and emotional implications." He rubbed his face. "Oh my God, this is actually happening." Selin watched him without blinking. "Fine," Nolan sighed. "Lesson 1. That was not inflammation. That was, well, stimulation. Unconscious. Random. It happens. We don't always control it. But your endocrine spikes correlated with dream patterns, which suggests desire." "Sometimes," he muttered. "But in this case, I was dreaming I was flying a jet made of bacon, so... no. Not desire." Selin frowned slightly. "Unfortunate." "What?" She blinked. "Never mind." The silence stretched. Nolan coughed. "So, is this how every Qevari healing session goes?" "No," she said. "Most patients do not awaken in the middle of hormonal flux." "Well, lucky me." "I have cataloged the reaction for my records," she said neutrally, his face drained of color. "You what?" "Relax. It is stored anonymously." "You scanned my junk and uploaded it?" "For research purposes only." He fell back onto the bed with a groan. "This is the worst day of my life." Selin Veyra leaned in again, her tone unreadable. "I will do better next time," she said. Would you prefer I request consent before initiating localized groin scans? Yes. Understood. She turned to go, crystalline feet clicking softly across the floor. Before she reached the door, she paused. Without turning, she added, though for what it's worth, the pressure ratio was quite remarkable. The door closed behind her, and Nolan groaned again, covering his face. Nolan tried not to think about it. Tried not to think about her hands, about the look on her face. Not confused or seductive, but deeply, scientifically fascinated. Like she had discovered a rare biological quirk worth publishing in a journal. But he couldn't stop thinking about it, which made the swelling worse, and unfortunately, she noticed. Again. 2 days had passed since the scan, and while Nolan's spinal trauma was stabilizing, his peace of mind wasn't. Selin had become more reserved, but not less observant. Every time he moved, grimaced, or flushed, she took notes. Literal notes. With a holographic clipboard floating beside her as she asked increasingly direct questions. Was that spike from physical stimulation, or was it in response to my presence? Do you find my physiology attractive? Would you like to examine my body for comparative analysis? He nearly choked on his hydration gel. Can we not do this during breakfast? I've read humans associate food with comfort and intimacy. I assumed this was a relaxed time for data gathering. Not when I'm eating protein paste, Selin. She blinked slowly. Understood. I will attempt humor calibration. Please? Don't. Later that afternoon, she entered his recovery pod holding a thin, translucent cube. I have prepared a basic overview of human sexual customs, she said. Nolan stared. You made a presentation? She nodded. Interactive. Would you like to review it? No, she blinked. Would it help if I simulated a more pleasing appearance? What? No, that's not the problem, she paused, processing. You are uncomfortable. Congratulations, you're learning. I believe it's because you do not wish to acknowledge your desire. I'm not desiring you. You're a nurse. I'm also genetically compatible based on our blood work. What? I ran the analysis while scanning your groin. There are overlapping reproductive markers. That is rare between species. Nolan's voice cracked. Selin, stop. She tilted her head. Do you not wish to reproduce? I wish to recover. Ah, she said. Recovery before arousal. Logical sequencing. He ran a hand down his face. You're not supposed to be like this. Like what? Curious. Her glow pulsed softly, almost like a blush. I was not. Until you. That night, Selin sat outside the recovery chamber on a meditation platform, her legs folded beneath her like silver threads. Her skin glowed, gently, shifting in hue. She was quiet. Processing. Inside, Nolan watched her through the glass. He had been angry, embarrassed. And yet, she hadn't mocked him. She hadn't laughed. She'd wanted to understand. She wasn't trying to seduce him. She was trying to translate him, and the truth was, he was starting to do the same. Just before lights out, she returned to his bedside. This time, she didn't scan. She didn't ask. She just stood there. Selin? He asked. She met his eyes. I will adjust. To what? To you. Then, she added softly, but I must ask one thing first. Shoot. When you experienced that reaction, was it because you were dreaming? He blinked. Yeah. Of what? He looked away. Her voice grew softer still. Was it me? He didn't answer, but the glow that spread across her cheekbones told her everything she needed to know. Selin Veyra was a perfect construct. Not in the synthetic sense. She was born, not built, but in the biological austerity her species was. Known for Qevari were engineered by evolution and centuries of self-restriction to be void of emotion. They believed in clarity, in control, in objective existence. Feelings were once part of their genome, long ago. They had excised them, until now. She stood alone in the diagnostics bay, watching the playback of her latest interaction with Nolan Graves. Not for the data, but for his face. The moment he'd looked away, the moment he'd refused to answer, the moment his skin flushed, and hers reacted. She pressed her hand to her chest, tracing the glow beneath her translucent skin. It shimmered, unstable, and it terrified her. Her supervisor arrived later that cycle. Dr. Marith Sol, another Qevari healer, older, sharper, and utterly unmoved by affection or anomaly. "I received your reports," he said coldly. "You've noted irregular glow patterning and cognitive disruptions in the presence of a human patient." Selin nodded. "You understand what that implies?" "Yes," she said. "Then you will submit to recalibration." She hesitated. "He is recovering. The bond is incomplete." "This is not about the patient. This is about you. You are deviating. I am evolving." Marith's glow dimmed to near black. "Emotion is regression." Selin's voice dropped. "Then why does it feel like clarity?" He turned away. "You have 24 hours to comply, or you will be transferred and reset." That night, she returned to Nolan's chamber. He was asleep, one arm flung across his face, his chest rising and falling in quiet rhythm. The neural bands on his spine glowed faintly, still healing. She didn't speak. She just sat beside him, watched him, waited, until his eyes blinked open. Selin, his voice was soft, drowsy. "I am not supposed to feel," she said. He propped himself up slowly. "But you do." "I don't understand it. You're not supposed to. That's kind of the point." Her eyes shimmered. "I'm being reassigned." He went still. "What? Why?" "They think I'm compromised." "Well, are you?" She looked at him for a long time. And then she reached out. Not to scan, not to correct, but to touch. Just his hand. Their fingers interlaced. "I don't know what this is," she whispered. "But I don't want it to end." He pulled her closer, his breath warm near her cheek. "Then don't let it." Outside, the Qevari sky circuit pulsed in steady intervals. Inside, something ancient sparked to life. Not data, not protocol, but feeling. Pain had become familiar. For Lieutenant Nolan Graves, it arrived like an old enemy, just quieter now, muted, contained. His spinal feedback had stabilized, and the pelvic nerve trauma that once screamed through every movement now whispered instead. But in its place came something worse. Memory. Selin was more careful now. She no longer asked about arousal. She no longer spoke during calibration scans. She simply sat with him, quiet, present, observing in the way one might observe a flame, not with cold detachment, but with awe. But today she sensed a change, elevated stress markers, pupil contraction, breath uneven. She paused the scan. Nolan. His hand clenched the side of the table. "I'm fine." "You're not." I said I'm fine. Her voice remained soft. "The data disagrees." He turned his head away. His jaw trembled. "I can't feel my legs." She blinked. "Your neurofunction is within optimal range. I mean, back then." Selin moved closer. "What happened?" He closed his eyes. "A crash, mid-atmosphere. Systems failed. There were 2 of us in the cockpit, only 1 seat in the ejection bay." She understood. "You gave it to them." She begged me not to. "But I shoved her in, closed the hatch, hit launch." He swallowed. "She made it." "I didn't." "My back snapped when the cockpit hit." Selin lowered her hand over his, not glowing, not scanning, just touching. "I see now," she said. "Your pain isn't just in the spine, it's in the memory." He nodded, eyes wet. "I killed the mission. Saved a life, lost 5 others. They called it heroic. I called it failure." Selin leaned down, gently resting her forehead against his. "Our kind once believed memory was sacred, that it lived in the bones. Perhaps that is why your bones still ache." He whispered. "Why do you care?" "Because I felt it. The day you screamed in sleep. I touched your arm and your body shivered, not in pain, in grief. A long silence passed. Then softly, "I've never shared a mind," she said. "But I would if you wanted." He blinked. "You mean like a psychic link?" "It would let me carry part of the memory, just the shape, not the feeling." "Why would you want that?" "So you don't have to carry it alone." He didn't answer. But he didn't say no. That night, Selin returned. No gloves, no tablet, just her. She sat beside him, lifted his hand, and placed it against her cheek. Her voice was a whisper. "Open." The link began. Nolan gasped, and in a moment, not a word, not a scan, she saw her. The woman in the cockpit, the flash of flames, the scream Nolan never forgot, the choice that haunted him. Selin didn't flinch. She held it, breathed it, shared it, and... When she pulled back, tears streamed down his face. He looked at her. "You felt that?" "I did." He reached up and touched her cheek. "Are you okay?" Her glow was soft now, warm. "I'm more than okay." She leaned into his palm. "I'm real." Selin's glow was changing, not just brighter, but wilder. Her patterns, once symmetrical and logical, now pulsed unpredictably across her body. Gold, rose, violet. Color spectrums no Qevari had produced in generations, and the council noticed. They summoned her to the crystalline chamber, cold, immaculate, and judging. Dr. Marith Sol stood at the center, flanked by two other high-ranking Qevari, Liraneth of Genetic Oversight and Vale, Chief of Neural Sanctity. "You were warned," Marith began, voice razor-sharp. Selin stood tall. "I remember." "Then why do your neural scans suggest emotional codependence?" She met his gaze. "Because it's true." Murmurs echoed through the chamber. Vale stepped forward. "You've crossed the threshold. Emotional imprint. Psychic linking. Unauthorized. Intimacy." He was in pain. "He was always in pain," Liraneth said. "That's not the question. The question is, why did you begin to feel it?" Selin's voice was steady. "Because I stopped seeing him as an assignment." Marith's glow dimmed ominously. "Then you are compromised." "I'm humanized," she said. Shock rippled through the others. "You will submit to neural recalibration," Marith ordered. "Immediately. Emotional infection must be purged." Selin did not blink. "No. You defy us? I choose him." The room fell to silence. Then, a judgment. "You are hereby declassified," Vale announced, "stripped of rank and record. From this moment forward, you are not Qevari." They left her no time to say goodbye. They locked her quarters, blocked her transmissions, but they forgot something. Nolan wasn't just recovering anymore. He was watching. Later that night, a station alarm blared, security protocols failed, doors slid open, and a very angry, very awake human pilot burst into Selin's holding chamber. "You okay?" he asked, breathing hard. She nodded slowly, eyes wide. "You came for me." He stepped forward. "Didn't say goodbye." "They declassified me." "They tried to erase you," he said. "But they forgot something." "What?" "I don't give a damn about their protocols." She reached out. He caught her hand. For the first time, no gloves, no scanners. No tension, only touch. And it felt like the first real thing either of them had ever known. Outside, alarms howled. Inside, two people made a choice. They would run. They would fall together, or they would rise together. But they would never be separated. Again. The escape wasn't clean, but it didn't need to be. They made it off the Qevari station aboard a stolen courier pod, small, barely jump-capable, and carrying only two bodies, one future, and a single shared heartbeat. Nolan set coordinates here, toward the outer fringe, beyond map space, beyond surveillance. Selin sat in the co-pilot seat, quiet, her fingers trembling. Not from fear, from freedom. They entered drift space 20 minutes later. The lights dimmed, the engines hummed, the silence was too loud. Nolan broke it first. You okay? Selin nodded. Yes. Doesn't look like it. She turned to him. Her voice was soft. I have never been just me before. No title, no restrictions, no resets. She looked down at her hands. I'm unstable. My glow patterns are unsanctioned. I'm experiencing emotions at unpredictable intervals. I don't know what I am. He stepped toward her slowly. You're becoming. They moved into the ship's living module, barely a room. Just a sleeping shelf, a low light, and walls that smelled like recycled air and starlight. Nolan sat. Patting the shelf beside him, she hesitated, then obeyed. She didn't speak again until he reached out, slowly, to touch her fingers. They pulsed gold. She flinched. I don't understand this part, she whispered. It's not pain. It's not fear. But when you look at me like that... Nolan's voice was low. Like what? Like I'm real. He smiled. You are. She turned to him, her face lit in 1,000 colors, reflections of emotion her species once exiled. Then, why does it make me ache? Because, he whispered, you want something. I don't know what. You want to be wanted back. They stayed there, not touching, not kissing, just looking. And Selin realized the ache in her core wasn't malfunction. It was hope. Later, she curled beside him on the sleep shelf, his arm over her side. No scan, no duty, no science, just breath and presence. She whispered, Nolan. Yeah? If I evolve into something else, something not fully Qevari, will you still stay? He kissed her hair. Only if you do too. The jump drifted them into quiet space. No beacons, no AI traffic, just the distant hum of old stars and the silence of a place forgotten by maps. Inside the ship, time softened. Selin stopped tracking pulses and data logs. Nolan stopped counting days since his injury. Instead, they listened, to each other. To small things. The way her voice changed when she laughed. The way his breath caught when she stood too close. The way his name sounded different in her mouth, more delicate. They hadn't touched again since that night on the station. Not really. She'd sat beside him, slept beside him, but always with restraint. Until now. It was the middle of cycle night, no threat, no scan, just stillness. Nolan stirred. He found her already awake, sitting near the window port, her silver blue hair drifting slightly in 0G, her skin pulsing dim lilac light. You don't sleep? He asked, voice rough from dreaming. She looked back slowly. I haven't wanted to. I'm afraid I'll miss something. He sat up. Like what? Like, the next time you look at me. He stood, crossed the room, knelt beside her and cupped her cheek. You know I'm looking now. Her glow surged beneath his palm. Not from data, but desire. She leaned forward first, not robotic, not calculated, just curious. He met her halfway. Their lips brushed, soft, hesitant, like neither quite believed it was allowed. She trembled. Her hands moved, traced his face, his chest, then paused at his ribs, fingers splayed. I can feel everything, she whispered. He guided her closer until her body fit along his. Then feel this. Their kiss deepened, not hungry, reverent. His breath hitched. Hers fluttered. They lay down slowly, her glowing skin illuminating the small chamber in waves of warmth. Her clothes softened into liquid threads at her command. He touched her like she was glass and fire. She held him like he was the answer to a question her species had buried for centuries. And when they moved together, there was no pain, no program, no species divide, only choice. After, she lay against him, her hair tangled across his chest, the ship silent but for the faint hum of stabilized drift. He traced a line down her spine where her glow pulsed rhythmically. She looked up. I never knew this was possible. You mean sex? She shook her head. Meaning. In that moment, they weren't alien and human. They were something new. And that newness had a heartbeat. It began with a ping. Low level, background noise. Easy to ignore, until it repeated. Then, multiplied. By the time Nolan decrypted the signal fragment, they were already too late. Unauthorized Qevari Medic has formed Class B resonance with a human subject. Emotional contamination confirmed. Location trace engaged. Intercept units and SIO eyes. Root. Selin sat frozen at the console, her hands trembling over the hologram. They found us. Nolan stood behind her, jaw tight. Then we move. She turned to him, eyes wide with fear and something new. Guilt. You don't understand. We didn't. Just break protocol. We broke design. He took her hand. Then maybe it's time someone rewrites the specs. They jumped again, deeper, beyond mapped space, toward a system neither had heard of, charted only in myth and smugglers' logs. Tarn's Veil. A nebula-cloaked system rumored to devour sensors and confuse warp paths. Perfect if they made it. Hours. Passed in quiet drift. Selin sat on the floor of the ship, legs drawn to her chest, glow dimming. I was made for certainty, she whispered. Every part of me is engineered to remove chaos. But now... Nolan crouched beside her. What? I need you. His breath caught. That scares me more than the council does. He touched her cheek. You think I'm not scared? I don't know. You always seem so... human, he smiled. We're just better at hiding it. She looked down at her hands. Do you think they'll erase me? If they try, he said, they'll have to go through me. Her glow flickered. Flared, then we fight. The signal came back again. Sharper this time. Intercept team approaching. ETA. 41 minutes. Weapons. Non-lethal. Neural wipe authorized. Target. Veyra, Selin. Class 4 deviation. Destroy data tether. Selin stood. Then we burn the eye. Tether first. Nolan blinked. You sure? I'm not a medic anymore, she said. I'm not Qevari. I'm mine. They moved fast. She uploaded her memory data, her glow patterns, her divergence, even their shared link, and encrypted it into a seed vault inside the ship's AI core. Then she did something unthinkable. She broadcast it, not just to the Qevari, but to everyone. The humans, the fringe, the rebels, the pirates, the watchers, the message. We are not anomalies. We are evolution. Stop us, and you prove we're worth fearing. Let us be, and maybe you'll learn something new. The intercept ships arrived, but the couple was already gone. Ghost jumped into the veil. Signal lost, and on dozens of worlds, thousands of people watched the transmission with wide eyes. A human man, a glowing alien woman, hands clasped, smiling. And in that moment, the protocol began to fracture. Tarn's Veil was like drifting through a dream stitched together by gravity and ghosts. The nebula warped sensors. Light scattered in colors even Selin couldn't name. Strange static whispered through the ships. Walls, as if the stars themselves were remembering. It was perfect. It was free. They landed on a fractured moon orbiting a dead world. The surface was glassed by old war, but below it, beneath black sand and silence, was life, an enclave, unregistered, protected, not just Qevari exiles, not just human outlaws, both. Together. They were greeted by a pair standing at the edge of the landing field, a human woman with titanium tattoos along her jaw, a tall reptilian healer whose scales shimmered in synchrony with her heartbeat. Selin stepped off the ramp cautiously. You're like us? The woman nodded. You lit a beacon. We've been waiting for someone to do it. Nolan stepped beside her. How many? The other woman smiled. Dozens. They were led into the heart of the underground commune. No guards, no segregation, just blended life. Children with glowing fingers learning Terran numbers. Qevari elders practicing human meditation techniques, touch, sound, emotion. It was raw. Imperfect. Real Selin sat beside a small campfire made from thermal stones. Child sat across from her, a girl with human freckles and translucent Qevari cheekbones. You glow different, the girl said. Selin smiled. So do you. I heard you kissed your bondmate before your glow changed. Selin blinked. Where did you hear that? The girl giggled. Everyone knows. Nolan sat down beside her. Word travels fast. Truth travels faster, the girl replied. Later in their assigned quarters, just a smooth stone room with a shared cushion and starlight leaking through a crack in the ceiling, Nolan turned to her. You ever think we'd get here? Selin touched her chest, where her glow now pulsed with rhythm. No. Regret it? She looked at him. I don't know how to regret you. He leaned in and kissed her like it was the first time, not the 100th. Not just desire, but gratitude. The next morning, they were approached by the Enclave leaders. We want you to teach, the human woman said. Your bond is proof. Living. Evidence. Teach what? Nolan asked. That between our species, she said. There isn't a wall. There's a door. Most are just afraid to open it. And so, they agreed. They would teach what it meant to feel across DNA, to link without fear, to touch without shame. They would build more than a refuge. They would build a movement. 10 years later, the Enclave was no longer hidden. It was known, not by empires or militaries, but by people. Whispered in code across old rebel networks. Mentioned in cautious curiosity in university lectures. Described in hushed tones at interstellar cafes. A place where love between species wasn't taboo. Where healing wasn't limited by biology. Where evolution wasn't something to be stopped, but embraced. Selin stood in the teaching chamber, watching a dozen hybrid children listen with wide, shimmering eyes. Some glowed, some had freckles. All were new. They weren't mistakes. They weren't weapons. They were answers to questions no one else had dared ask. She spoke softly. Desire isn't inflammation. It's information. It's your body's way of saying, I want to be close, but I don't know how yet. A little boy raised his hand. Is that what happened when you touched him? The room chuckled. Selin blushed, not with shame, but with light. Yes, she said. I didn't understand what his body was telling me, and he didn't understand what I was asking in return. Another child chimed in. But you learned? She smiled. We both did. That's what made us more. Outside the chamber, Nolan leaned against a pillar, watching her with the same half-smile he'd worn since the day they ran. Their son, Aaron, sat on his shoulders, pointing at things, asking questions, glowing faint gold in the way only he did. Nolan looked up at him. You gonna be a teacher like your mom? Aaron shrugged. Maybe, or a pilot like you. Nolan laughed. Or something else. Like what? Something new. That night, they all sat by the fire. Selin, Nolan, Aaron, and a dozen others like them. Families that weren't bound by bloodlines, but by choice. Someone asked, how did it really start? Selin looked to Nolan. He smirked. She touched me, without warning. Thought I had a ruptured appendage. The whole circle erupted in laughter. Selin rolled her eyes. I was a medic. It was glowing. And that, Nolan said, grinning, is the romantic origin of our species. Selin smiled, glowing brighter than ever. No, she said. That was just the spark. The flame is everything we've built since. Above them, stars turned. Beneath them, life continued. Not human, not Qevari, just together.